They say the right tools can get any job done. We agree. Introducing Blueprint, the platform for educators built by educators. Blueprint is user-friendly, featuring drag-and-drop scheduling tools and a robust gradebook. Designed for the scholastic world, Blueprint empowers educators to create powerful course content. Plus, Blueprint is the exclusive provider of the popular Gaming Concepts curriculum. Learn more about how to gain access to Blueprint today.
Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Thank you so much for being here on the webinar with us today. With me today is Dr. Russell, one of our co-authors on the Gaming Concepts curriculum. He's going to be joining here shortly. It's nice with his title. There he is. I knew he was back there somewhere. All right, so let's get started. Today we are going to be talking about Scholastic gaming, esports. How do we start this program? What's it all about? What can esports do for me? Some of the things that you might have questions about are how can esports benefit my school? I've heard a lot about esports. What is it? How can esports benefit students? What are some skills students can get out of esports? A lot there. I mean, there's a lot of questions that you could have to something like this. And today, hopefully, we are going to solve all of those questions for you. So without further ado, here we go. This webinar is going to be a lot of information for you that might be pitching to a district or might be pitching to your school for you to get esports going, or for you to get a club going, or even a class going. Or maybe you're just interested to start it at your school. You might be an administrator, a teacher. A lot of different variables with that. As always, thanks to our partners that help provide all of the support that we need for these webinars and for our curriculum. So as always, thanks to them. And also shout out real quick to our team. Mike's on here with us today, but the rest of them here you can see. So there's 4 of us here on the education team. All of us do a million other things other than what it's listed as our titles there. So, but at the core, we're all teachers, and I think that's what's one of the best benefits that we can bring to the esports and education and scholastic gaming scene is that we all have a shared experience with all of you out there trying to start an esports program or wanting to start an esports program, and that we've done that. And have worked through that and through those trials. So let me actually go back here. There we go. So my name's Alex Herby, and I've been with Generation Esports about 3 years. I came from the classroom, 10 years in education at the high school, middle school level, where I was a tech integration specialist for the district. I also taught woodshop. I also taught computer science. I taught game design. I taught a lot of stuff. In that, and also started an esports program at our high school. And so, yeah, so I'm going to be kind of leading the charge today through the webinar. Mike's here. Thank you for offering some color commentary with me today on the presentation. So, Mike, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get going. Oh, you're muted. It's okay.
I did misclick. That's what I'm gonna say. It was a misclick. I did actually.
Hang on, I can't hear you. Maybe it's me.
Oh, okay. Well, my mic says it's working, so I'll talk and we'll see if it goes through. Can you hear
me? Give me just a moment.
Hold on.
Okay, try it now.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you. Okay.
You can hear me?
Nick can hear me. Nick can hear me.
Okay, Nick can hear us. That's all that matters. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nick, or Nicholas.
I can hear you now. It's coming through. Okay. All right. It must have been me.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll cut all that out in post.
Nicholas was helping us with tech support. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm Michael Russell. I was in education for 6 years at an alternative school. I was a social studies and business teacher, and we also created Gaming Concepts, which is our curricular offering there. I was the after-school esports coach while I was there, and I mostly coached Overwatch and Rocket League. And yeah, so I'm whatever Alex said right there on the paper. President of Education is what my official title is right now. So we'll see.
Right. That's what we'll go with.
Among many other things, but
That's
yes.
right. That's right. We all have a lot of hats. So, I mentioned in the beginning, the challenges that, or the questions that you might have surrounding esports, and putting it into a scholastic program or putting it into an after-school program. Today, what we're going to talk about is how esports can benefit post-secondary success, mental health, attendance, engagement, and diversity and inclusion. So those are going to be the 5 things that we're going to go over today. However, other challenges that we can definitely assist you with, or if you have questions about further beyond this, feel free to email us. But things like budget constraints, time distractions, or I'm sorry, screen time, grades and credit, discipline, social isolation, authentic relevant learning. You'll see a lot of that already kind of mixed into this presentation for you guys. But if you want specifics, we can definitely get those to you if you're looking for those specific challenges. All right, so talking about success after school, after they get out of high school. So when we're talking about, you're wanting to have student success through esports, one of the best things is to create an esports program. That's kind of why you're here. But why? That's going to be what your administrators are going to be asking. They're going to be like, why do you want to play video games in school? That's going to be the number one question. You're going to get it from parents. You're going to get it from administrators. And this is the ammunition here that you're going to want to provide to them, or can talk to those people that have doubts. So, esports, comes from a very basic level of video games. However, esports is all about transferable skills. And with those transferable skills, you can see here all of these different components, or all of these different jobs that derive themselves from video game play. And some of these things might be like really off the cuff or really left field to you, or to somebody that isn't as knowledgeable about esports or transferable skills here. But things like physical trainer or wellness coach or something like that. Well, those things are in esports. They're all usually for pro teams, but they have an esports focus. That's what we're looking at here. Is all these jobs having an esports focus, or the other way around? Is that you were interested in maybe a lawsuit that came about between 2 publishers or something like that, and that really got you interested into law. And because of the esports program at your school, now you're more interested into esports law. And so, yeah, a lot of different career choices that you can go to through the skills and through the experiences that you can have in esports. And Mike, at any time, just jump in if you got something. So, the esports industry is blowing up right now, right? So it's estimated to be a $184 billion industry. And this is the number one thing everyone thinks of when they think esports, or video game careers, or what do I get out of an esports education? It's not just designing and coding games, right? It's that whole list of other things, as well as digital citizenship skills, core subject skills, better knowledge retention, better understanding of content, cross curriculars, and being, character education, mental health. I mean, so many facets can be derived from that. One of the big things here that people don't think about, but air traffic controllers, they make a good salary, they have a good pension, and they are in high demand, right? And so one of the best things that video game skills transfers to is air traffic controllers. And so, this is just one thing that you can promote to your schools. If you're in a school district near a large, metropolitan airport, then this is a direct link to showing, hey, this area of need is here, and we need air traffic controllers here in Atlanta, Cincinnati, New York, California, wherever. You can show that need to your district. One of the biggest things that we have found through our work is that esports really benefits mental health and preventing mental health crisis. And so what we did with gaming concepts specifically, and I'm sure that some of this can be given to esports in general. esports can really help students with their self-esteem. Now, our curriculum specifically works with increasing their self-esteem, and we have a medical journal about that that's been published. But when you're talking about kids' mental health, especially students that are in high school, middle school today, they've gone through the pandemic. They were socially isolated for a number of weeks, months, maybe a year or so. And that had devastating effects on their social abilities, right? And so everybody was over Zoom. Even adults didn't necessarily come out of it on the up and up, right? And so students were really vulnerable to all of this, and also are still vulnerable because they're students. So, a lot of things happen in high school, as we all have a shared experience of high school, right? Some of us positive, some of us negative. But, high school and middle school can be a rough place. And if you could have a class that could benefit you mentally, then, that's going to be, your saving grace during high school or middle school to help you get through it, and have you come out successfully, versus you coming out hating it or dropping out or something like that. So, looking at preventative mental health in regards to esports, these are some of the things that we found through our study. These are the impacts we had on different cohorts that were involved in our study for mental health. And so you can see, there is a huge uptick in the benefit you see here, the measurable benefit for students to see a measurable success rate in their self-esteem. So how does it work with us? And I know we're getting kind of specific to our curriculum, but it does apply to esports as a whole. When you have teachable moments in esports, so something very generic and something very common is toxic gameplay. And so when you have toxic gameplay, you have put downs, you have sexism, racism, all of these things happening in chat. What happens to that? And that's going to be a concern that parents and administrators are going to have for you, is what happens to these comments, these chats, these words that my kids are hearing, or that the kids are hearing. And it's like, well, that's where we turn it into a teachable moment, and we turn these kids into advocates, and we turn them into change agents, and not into complacent bystanders. Because when students are hearing all of that through their headsets or in chat all the time, game after game, match after match, they especially if you start from a young age, you start to think that if there's no correction to that behavior, that's okay to do. And they get that mindset of, well, I mean, that's bad, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Or, they start to think maybe, oh, that's just how we talk to people that lose the game. Like that's, they will learn that behavior. But when you have a teacher in the room and you bring it into a school setting, we can pull that out and we can say, hey, no. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the implications of this type of speech and this type of, conduct. Is this something that would be happening? If this happened on the football field, would this fly? Absolutely not. Think of how that would be if you had two football teams on Friday night at the high school and they ended the game trash talking each other, like some of the words you see in chat on a Fortnite game or something like that. Then, I mean, you're talking about so many problems.
That really is one of the best things about having a teacher in the room when this stuff's going, like when you're doing these classes, is those are all teachable moments. That's when you can actually take the time and be like, hey, that's not an appropriate response, or this is give them the appropriate response, or maybe there isn't a response. Sometimes you do have to just unfriend people or block them, and and you're not going to ever see them again, and that sometimes is the best way to handle that too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, getting these words of wisdom from adults is very important as you're starting out. So I think that's a majority of my job to begin with. When I was starting this class, was watching chat and helping kids determine how best to proceed. So
Yeah, because that all these kids and even us have that one friend that's kind of like, oh, they're kind of the wild one, or they're the ones that I've been friends with, or the kids have been friends with for a long time, but they don't know how to sever that relationship. Like they can't realize that this attitude constantly is bad for them. and that's something that brings, again, a teacher into the room to make it easier for the student to navigate these kind of changes that may be needed in their life. Here's again, this is the mental health component. I'm going to play this video just because it kind of sums up what I've been talking about in probably a much better way because it's done with a video. So I'm going to play this for you guys. It's only 2 minutes, so it should be quick.
Hello there, gamers and mental health.
Oh, of course, if I didn't hit the right button, I'm sorry.
Hello there, gamers and mental health enthusiasts. Today, we're diving into Hello there, gamers and mental health enthusiasts.
I can't click any button.
We're diving into a groundbreaking study that explores the intersection of scholarly gaming and mental health education and how it can impact the self-esteem of adolescents. Picture this, a world where scholarly gaming isn't just about mastering technology-based career skills or dominating the world of video game business. No, it's a world where gaming becomes a gateway to improving mental health. 3 visionary educators and a school-based health intervention expert came together to create a curriculum that aligns with academic guidelines from the International Society for Technology Education. This curriculum spans 40 lessons, delivered over 14 weeks, with a minimum of 120 minutes per week. But here's the twist. 83 schools were invited to participate, but they were divided into 2 groups, those with mental health moments and those without. The non-mental health moment group got the scholarly gaming curriculum alone, while the mental health moment group got an extra layer of education. Mental health moments were embedded into 27 lessons, integrating concepts from the PERMA framework and the collaborative academic, social, and emotional learning standards, otherwise known as CASEL. Now, let's meet our players. 471 participants from both groups, with almost 75% in high school, many experiencing scholarly gaming for the first time. A majority were male, and the racial diversity was broad. At the start, the average self-esteem score was 17.9, with 22.1% reporting low self-esteem. But hold on, the game's just beginning. As the study progressed, it revealed some fascinating results. While 57.7% of participants with low self-esteem at the beginning reported average self-esteem post-intervention, the mental health moments group stole the spotlight. Self-esteem scores improved by 8.3% in the mental health moments group, compared to no change in the non-mental health moments group. How's that for power? Some students even shifted from abnormally low self-esteem scores to normal ranges. The message is loud and clear. Educators, healthcare providers, and adolescent advocates pay attention. Non-traditional educational instructions, like scholarly gaming, combined with mental health moments, can significantly improve students' well-being. And there you have it, a journey through the power of scholarly gaming and mental health moments. Remember, your self-esteem matters, and sometimes all it takes is a little extra support to level up. Thanks for joining us on this adventure. Until next time.
Okay. So, as we can see, like I said, this is a little bit more specific to what we offer and what we've got. But you can see that, the frameworks and the standards and the scales that we used can be realized across any type of esports program. In that, it can be done with any type of program. And so let's talk about attendance, right? So attendance is a big driver for schools. Obviously, that's in some areas, that's definitely how you get funded is your attendance rates. And so, in dealing with the pandemic response, kids stopped coming to school. They were just so used to not being at school, their parents would be calling them in, or they just kind of never came back. And so, with the attendance issue, if you're not at school, then you're not going to be learning, which means that you're going to do bad, right? You're going to not perform as well. You're going to miss out. When you miss school, you miss out. I remember I had a poster of that in my room all the time, is that if you miss school, you miss out. And so attendance is a big thing that esports can solve. Mike can speak to this about, when he developed gaming concepts. Mike, tell us about attendance at Complete High School.
Yeah, so we started the first year. Our goal there was 85%. That's what we always wanted. As an alternative school, that was what we felt like was a realistic number. The first year we ran it, the attendance in the class was 94%. We thought for sure there would be no way we'd improve it, and the next 3 years we ran the class, it ran 96%. So, yeah, we saw some very great increases, and we've seen a lot of schools adopt it as a first hour engagement piece to get those kids who tend to miss more school than others, I'll say, or chronically absent, come in and start their day off. And once you get them there, they're going to stay. So, it was about, getting them we call it chocolate covered broccoli. So, they get to do some fun activities, but they also do a lot of learning, real world learning, and it's a great way to get them into school and get them there to stay, and they start to build out kind of a friend group, and they want to be at school more often. So attendance is pretty important with everything that we do, and it will get those kids engaged. So
Absolutely. And so there's a lot of different strategies that you can use for where you put your esports program. So, Mike had mentioned at his alternative school, it was first period. When I started my program, which was also connected to the alternative school, before we released it to general population, it was right after lunch. And because that's what our administrators wanted. They wanted them there through lunch, because lunch was that time where everybody skipped. And especially those alternative school kids were ducking out after lunch. And so that kept them there through lunch. And then after that, we added another section. And so we had one, at lunch, and then we had another one at the end of the day. And so you had to make sure you're, doing it all the way, being there all the way through. But if you structure this as an after school program, you could also tie attendance to their participation in that after school program, similar to a sports team, right? So in Missouri, back when I was a coach, they had a rule for athletics, and it was day of, day after. And you had to be there the day of the event and the day after to qualify for the following event. And so that was a rolling, making sure students were not ducking out for events and for athletic competitions. Engagement, a huge piece, right? And so it's always a fun thing to theorize or to think about in building engagement with your students. And it's always, to me, it always seemed to me when we were talking about engagement and PD and all that stuff, is that they were just wanting, they want these super deep, super awesome lessons, but it was kind of like a dog and pony show, really. It was like you're trying to do all this flash and pizzazz with the kids, and you're using all these tools and all this content and it's like you're trying to get them interested, but it was always a one-way street, it seemed like, right? Like when you're trying to do these super engaging lessons, it was always the teacher was super excited about it because it was about Mike, history or business, or some of my best ones are about dovetail joinery in the shop, right? Just
super exciting stuff.
Kids just don't appreciate the wonderfulness of dovetail joinery.
I love a good dovetail joint. Like
Yeah.
that's my
Yes.
favorite thing. So.
And so, it's the teacher's passion that's trying to build engagement a lot of times. But we have to reverse that. And esports helps to reverse that and bringing the students' engagement matched with the teacher's interests a lot of times. Because I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, because not everybody that does esports in the classroom or in school is a big gamer. They might just be more of a champion or an ally of esports in the classroom or esports in the school. And so they want to help out and they want to do that. They're not always like super into gaming. And so, flipping that, now it's on the students. The students have that engagement piece. So let's take a look at, and I moved this. I knew there was something wrong why this table was shifted over to the right more than it is now. That's okay. So let's talk about student engagement at these 3 high schools that we see here across the country. Hoopa, California, small school, right? They had 25 students enrolled with only 15 computers. They had 100 students on the wait list out of their student population of 257 for esports. Griswold High School, 580 is their student population. They're in Connecticut. 25% of the student body chose to take gaming concepts or esports course. You can kind of see the numbers there of how many kids they had for each course. And then Wichita Public Schools, biggest school district in the state of Kansas, 40,000 students there. They do not have enough teachers to teach esports. There's so many people, so many students are on the waiting list. As you can see here, 3,000 students enrolled with waiting lists now with esports. It is, if you build it, they will come, right? So if you announce anything, we're going to do esports and algebra, right? They won't hear the algebra part, and you will get so many kids in that algebra class that will be hopefully not let down by your new hybrid algebra esports class. But they will be there because that's the interest that kids have these days. They are interested in video games. Along with that, not everybody likes to play sports, right? So some kids, you're thinking of, in the high school, you're thinking of kids that maybe do, theater, debate, science Olympiad, all kinds of other clubs, but they don't participate in any sports. Well, that's good and bad, right? For a number of reasons that I'm not smart enough to get into. But what I do know is that they don't necessarily always feel a part of something, as teamwork can build on a sports team or in a community or in a club, in some clubs, right? And so we've been seeing, as you can see here in this graph here, that youth sports are declining. And why that is, there's a number of things why youth sports are declining, right? It's expensive. They are, subjugative to, not including everybody. It's like a girl wants to play football. Well, you can't, sorry. Things like that, right? They're less inclusive than esports is. Esports is that great connector of everybody. Anybody can play esports, whether you're male, female, if you have any type of disability. I mean, if you are, socially awkward or the star of the high school, everyone can play esports. Everybody can play esports. Everybody can participate in esports. So, leadership roles, this is where your students really start to shine in an esports program when you build it out. You will see kids that you have never heard talk in the building before, talking like they are, Tony Robbins giving the presentation of a lifetime to their peers that they would never thought to talk to because of the connection to the game and to their competitive nature and what their knowledge of the game, right? So whether you do this as an after-school program or you do it in the classroom as a 4-credit class, these leadership roles can be integrated into both of those parts. So, captain, marketing officer, game expert. If you're talking about really getting into esports, doing some like streaming shoutcasting, you can have some, commentators, you can have hosts, you can have game experts. These are things that students will shine at and will just really get into, right? Student-led projects, when you're talking about it from like an education kind of philosophy, pedagogy type thing, when you're talking about like project-based learning, you're talking about problem-based learning, these kind of things where it's like a student-led activity where students take ownership in their learning, those always have the highest rates of success, completion, content retention. There's so much that students get out of their own learning, and this is it, right? They take ownership in this class, and you can facilitate that through esports. Practice can be done, obviously, it's esports, so we do have to have some video games in there, right? It's not all about character ed and engaging them, but what we're going to do is we're going to practice, we're going to do different scenarios. This is where students can take over again. Students can be coaches, assistant coaches. Some of your kids are going to be awesome at these games. Some of them are going to be terrible at these games, but they love to play video games and they want to be part of this community that you are building. So talk about diversity and inclusion. I'm going to stop real quick as we're about halfway. Does anyone have any questions? I'd love to answer any questions from the audience. If you want to throw them in chat, that'd be great. If it's too long and you want me to unmute you, I can, and we can have a chat about it. But I just want to make sure if anyone has any questions, I can get those answered before you forget them, unless there's some in the Q&A. Okay, good, they're not. Okay, just making sure, because I always forget to check the Q&A.
I was keeping an eye on it, but
okay, thank you.
But
okay, well, I'll take that. Oh, 2 big questions. Oh, still trying to answer during here too. Okay.
let's hear them. Let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. Started a program last year. Nick, would it be easier for us to unmute you so you can chat, or do you want to type it? I guess if you're typing your question, I'm sorry. Okay, perfect. Let's talk about it. That makes it a little bit more. There we go. Hello, Nick. You're on with Alex and Mike.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we started our program last year. We were seeing a dramatic drop off in all of our after school clubs. Um, and the drop off seemed to be less intense in everything that was goal oriented. So performance based stuff like the theater programs, the competition based stuff like sports. So the principal kind of almost casually mentioned, like, what if instead of a game club, which we had before, we had an after school club where kids would just hang out and play tabletop games, video games and whatnot. But it was drying up like all the rest. He kind of mentioned, well, what if that was competition based like the other stuff? What if we look at esports instead? And so last year was kind of our year zero. It was an experiment, and we were actually able to do pretty well, I think. I was very happy with the results. But two things I definitely am still aggressively trying to get better at or find resources for is I know that there are scholarships opportunities out there for esports players. That hasn't been totally clear up to this point how to go about finding them and like connecting that dot. Like we got a pool of scholarships over here, got a pool of players over here. How do I connect them to each other? Like how do I get them to do stuff? The other one is I am a little bit of a gamer, but I actually really don't care that much for competitive gameplay. I like more
You and me both.
relaxed, I guess, game style. So I have absolutely nothing to teach our Valorant players, our Rainbow Six players, our even our Mario Kart players. I've been playing Mario Kart for 35 years, but there's nothing I could teach our kids on how to get better. So like the intramural stuff, I think we are ready to rock and roll. But if I want to try and help my kids improve their skills, that's a little bit trickier. So definitely still on the hunt for resources or ways to get better at like how to coach, I guess is the question.
Yeah, we can definitely assist you with that and kind of, generically answer those questions for you. It really, before I let Mike speak, because I know he wants to talk to this, it really comes down to how much you want to do, and how much you want to have someone else do it for you,
We're also
or you have
launching
access to it.
gaming concepts as a 4 credit course at the school this year too, but this is the very first time we've done it. So
Okay.
that's very much year zero for that as well. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
no problem. Yeah, no problem. Mike, I'm just gonna let you take over for.
That'll probably help a lot. Nick, is it okay if we call you Nick? I didn't ask. But,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
yeah, that'll probably help you a lot, Nick, by having it embedded in the school day, because that's going to kind of get kind of a core group of kids that'll start to come in. And what you'll see by offering that class is, I don't know what your team dynamic is or how what the breakup of different groups is in it, but you'll probably start to see a lot more minorities and females start to join because you're offering the class during the school day. It seems to make the comfort level a little easier. Like all of us, we're not competitive gamers. We like gaming, but I think once they get into the class, they're like, oh, I kind of like this, and I want to. Maybe I will try out for the team because now I have a comfort level with it. So I think that will probably improve a little bit. So you might see your enrollment kind of kick up there in the after school program because you are offering the class. From a coaching standpoint, yeah, we can be super generic. I obviously, depending on how many games you're offering, it's going to be impossible for you to be have the game knowledge on any of all of those games. I mean, we fortunately for me, we played Overwatch, and I was really good at Overwatch. That was what I liked to do, so we had a team built around that. But I didn't know anything about Rocket League. Fortunately, I had kids, one in particular who was really good at Rocket League, loved to keep up on the meta, watched all the videos. So that was a leadership opportunity for that student. So I kind of would view your role as more getting out of the, like, I'm going to coach these kids. I would more view it as kind of a director, and then finding kids, or even reaching out to a local college and seeing if they might have a one of their students who might be interested in doing some coaching or as an internship possibility, something like that, because the games change so quickly, and this, the meta Yeah, more, I would say more like a GM, kind of more like
Yeah.
a.
I was gonna say, whenever I'm talking to people about the program, I exclusively refer to myself as the GM, not the coach. I
There you
get
go.
the teams registered, I get the flyers for recruitment made
Yep.
and put out. I handle the behind the scenes junk, and I try to but
Yep.
I think last year, again, year zero, so we'll see how it evolves over time. Last year
Yeah.
was vast majority of my players were underclassmen, freshmen, and sophomores, so it was hard finding somebody for each of those different games, especially like to be. We had designated team captains, but they were reluctant to kind of really fully step into a leadership role and say, okay, today we're working on this skill and we're going to improve on it. Today we're going to watch this video of, so and so championship match. Going to try to gently push them towards stuff like that, but it was not
There are
easy.
resources out there, and we don't want to get into like a sales pitch here. So, I mean, we have partners and things that, so reach out to Alex or myself, and we can, kind of help you connect the dots
Yeah.
there, because we want to keep this pretty, high level and generic for everybody, so that,
Yeah.
you
We're
know,
more than happy to promote people, but
Yeah.
for this,
All right, thanks very much.
there are training options out there for you to purchase, that some of them offer free stuff, some trial stuff, some of them offer all paid stuff. It really depends on what you want to do. But my other thought for you, Nick, is that, at your high school, do you guys offer for upperclassmen like library aid, office aid, peer-to-peer class for those seniors or something like that? Because we utilize that in our high school, and you wouldn't believe how many kids wanted to sign up for Esports Mentor, is what I was getting off the ground, for kind of community service hours, or one of those kind of what I would call an off class for somebody that's already ready to graduate.
We
Those.
do community service, so that'd be an option I could try. I'm
Yeah.
also trying to establish a relationship with. We have two universities, not like right next door, but close enough where we could look at mentorship programs with college level esports players. But
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I just linked in the chat, Nick, and of course everybody can use that. So one of our partners is Video Games and Esports Foundation. They've put together a list of, or they at least have links to sites that have the list of colleges and universities that currently offer
For scholarships.
scholarships. So that, if you're welcome, there's a whole slide deck there too, so you can go through that. There's a lot of information in there too, kind of some of the stuff we're sharing, but also a lot of different information. So
Yeah.
there's some opportunities there. So I mean, I think, when I started this in 2016, there was probably 150 to 200 universities, and the last stat I saw was 800 to 1,000. So I mean, it's definitely growing, and it's you're starting to see a lot of varsity level programs grow up and develop. So I think what state are you in, Nick?
Maine, that's a bit of a challenge for
That would be
us.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually had a Rainbow Six team that was doing exceptionally well last year, and I started to get nervous. Actually, I was really excited, but also HSEL was doing their playoffs in Kansas City. I was like, oh my God, I don't even have funding for like chairs for our desks yet. Like, where am I going to find tickets to Kansas City for these guys?
Well,
But it ended up being a moment of confusion. They were playing on console, which wasn't a thing, and then the PC version was a totally different thing.
I've seen it in a few instances. If your team, so at my high school, as an example, when I was teaching, our first year robotics team made it to nationals, and no, I mean they had almost zero funding and all that stuff. But you take those kids in front of the board and tell them to say no to those kids, that they can't compete nationally for a title, and it may be hard for them to say no to fund that somehow. So always use the kids first is my advice, because it's harder for them to say no to them than it is to say no to you.
Send them in front of the board and be like, we really want to do this.
Yeah. Get some tears going.
Yeah. So
Great questions, Nick. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna throw you back in the pool there, Nick. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks very much.
all right, thanks.
All right. So, we're talking about, and even in the conversation, we're talking about bringing kids into this inclusive environment. Esports is one of those things that anyone, like I said before, anyone can do it, right? At all ability levels, all skill levels, anyone can do it. And so kids that have these kind of issues about them, or kids that are struggling with something mentally, physically, academically, they may not be able to compete or participate in something like theater, debate, forensics, science Olympiad, all these other extracurriculars that have that kind of intrinsic providing of skills or post-secondary options or looks good on a resume. They may not be able to do that, but what they can do is esports, and they're already doing it. So let them be there, and they can prove to you easily, how much of a contribution that they're going to make, because you might be surprised at how much of a contribution some of these kids that might be trouble during the day are, such an awesome esports contributor to your room or to your community, or some of these kids that might, spend a lot of time with a para, or, with, a sped teacher or something like that. These students oftentimes can be, diamonds in the rough when it comes to esports, and are really valuable to the team and to the community. Right. So again, here, diversity, inclusion, students that would normally not be able to do anything. This student plays Overwatch with his feet. That's something that you can't, he's included now. He's part of the community, part of this team. And, he, without that, wouldn't have been able to do anything. Another thing, we see this big influx, this big boom of girls gaming, girls in gaming, women in esports and all these things. And that's awesome, because for so long it's been kind of a male dominated sport or activity, right? Just like a lot of the other after school activities or sports, they're kind of male dominated, until we get females in there, who are, rightly so, should be there to be able to participate and practice with them. As a shop teacher for a long time, and also in game development and computer science, there were not a lot of girls that wanted to take my program. You'd get a couple that wanted to do shop, but you hear the same things. I don't want to be in there with all those boys. I don't want to be in there with all those boys. But with esports, they at least have that little bit of leg up where they've been doing it at home. And so they know they're pretty good, right? And so, when they show up and knock the boys down a notch, then they can see, those boys can see, oh yeah, they can see the light. And those girls aren't so as intimidated to join an esports club or team, versus shop or football, because they're the first one or the only one there, and they have no experience with it beforehand. Here's again here, Mike and Christy here are fearless leaders for our the gaming concept stuff. But how do you use esports, right? Like this again, this is more centered towards us, but how can, just how to use esports, right? You can utilize it in an after school program to provide structure, right? You can find esports curriculum for that, or esports lessons. I'm going to keep it generic here. You can supplement what you're already doing in the classroom with esports themed or lensed lessons or programming. You can implement an esports course into your schedule, and then you can align your courses to a pathway, right? So these are obviously things that we work through and we provide and promote. But all of this can be generically said through esports. All of this can be generically said through esports can do this. Esports in your building. This is just an example of what could be done. So if you have a 60-minute class 5 days a week, you could do instruction and then reflection on that instruction, that esports instruction or esports themed instruction. And then you could have some game time and purposeful play game time, not just, all right, guys, game time. It's not like Friday afternoon at 2:30 when it's like, all right, guys, free time or something like that, right? It's definitely a purpose to that, right? Why are we playing the game? We're playing it because our objective is blah, 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 right? What your objective is for that lesson. It ties the lesson to the game. It pulls those transferable skills out. If you got a 90-minute lesson, you're talking about more instruction, a little more reflection, and then obviously more purposeful play. And obviously these are just examples of ways you could use this in the classroom, how the time can be split. All right, this is just one of our courses that we offer. And so to keep this generic, I'm just going to say we offer gaming concepts and we offer esports curriculum, but we're not going to get into it. If you're looking to add, what this is as a class, something like, I'm going to go back to this one. This is something that you could look at if you're wanting to add esports lessons, programming, theming to a course you already have, or something you want to build yourself, right? We want you to do what's best for your kids, whether you're with us or not. And so these are some topics that you might want to put in if you're looking to build your own program, or this is what we offer to have you there, right? So these are just some generic things, but history, types of games, technology, hands-on stuff, and then career readiness, right? These are just some basic themes that you could go through, and then if you're trying to get a little bit more into it, health and wellness, citizenship, SEL, stuff like that. All right. Any questions from the group? Anyone got anything that we can answer? Questions about starting your program? Questions about making your program more successful? How to deal with parents? How to deal with the board? How do I fund this? All of the above, maybe. I will speak to funding, because that's usually another huge thing, is everybody wants to know how it's funded or how you can fund it. So if you're at the high school level, middle school level, I did see that they have extended ESSER funding to spend your ESSER funding through next year. If your district hasn't spent all of your ESSER funding, I'm going to stop this screen share just so I can get you the actual information, because I just had it up the other day. And so, ESSER funding is a great place for you to start, because it's money from the government that your school may or may not have still. They've extended it another 14 months from September. And so now the new ESSER funding, that would be ESSER
From spending, is that spending or allocating?
spending.
So
to finish.
They still have to have it allocated by the
Yeah.
end of September, but they have more time to spend it.
You've got more time to spend it. So sometimes, if you're not sure what ESSER funding is, definitely contact somebody at district office, because there could be some ESSER money that the government doled out during COVID to assist with education, and so you can purchase all kinds of different things, almost anything, through ESSER funding. And so see if you've got any left at your district. That would be number one I'd go through. If you're at the high school level, you can go through Perkins grants, Perkins funding. The trick to that is to make sure that it is what is the word? It is new and innovative technologies, or new and innovative learning, right? And so when I was a teacher, I would use Perkins funding all the time to buy shop equipment. There is definitely nothing technically new and innovative about a drill press, but it is to me and my students. So it's all about spin for Perkins, I'll tell you that, to get that pushed through. But funding can also be done through, you might start something small and it might be a student fee. We don't like that, but that is also one option. But you could also petition the board for a pilot program, and we know that it will be successful. And I think if you're on here, you kind of know that esports is a big thing, and it'll show success, whatever metrics you're going to use to show the board. But sometimes school boards are willing to do these pilot programs if somebody's going to take it on and they know it's going to be successful. So those are some avenues that you can get money other than grants. Obviously, there's a lot of grants that you can get out there from a million different places. Walmart, CDW has a grant, Best Buy has a grant, like Intel has grants, Epic Games has grants, as well as the government. So you might even have one that's state.
Internet service provider, like.
Yep, internet service provider may have grants.
Especially if you're in a rural area, they're laying a lot of fiber, and part of that is government backed, so they want you to have so much investment in the community. So there's part of the money they receive is supposed to go back to their community. So
Yeah, yeah. So funding is always a thing, but you know what? At the same time, if you're just trying to get this off the ground, if we're talking bare bones, I just need to start esports. You could repurpose a CAD lab or a Photoshop journalism lab or a broadcast journalism or video production lab. Those would be great gaming computers. Those computers are already spec'd out for esports. Your monitors may not be the fastest, but if you're just trying to start, you got to start somewhere. So those are great gaming computers to use those or repurpose those. Flip side, if you're buying equipment, that's a great pitch to your board or your tech director to be like, look, even if this doesn't work out, which it will, I promise, then these can be repurposed. Or in addition to doing esports during the day, now we can have better computers for journalism, broadcast, video editing, CAD lab. This space can be multi-purpose, and I know school districts love that when you can use something throughout the day versus 1 hour a day or just after school. Alternatively, kids could bring in their own devices. If you can get your district IT team to let them on the Wi-Fi, you could have them kind of bring your own device program. Or as Nick kind of mentioned to us earlier, you could start this out with board games, right? Kids get just as mad at Monopoly as they do with Fortnite, right? And so toxic gameplay, it doesn't always have to be on esports titles. It doesn't have to be always on video games. You can get, like I said, you can get a lot of the same skills, transferable skills, character ed, mental health, toxicity in gaming through board games. And I can attest to that for sure through board games. Any questions? Any other questions? I'd love to answer anything else if anyone has a question or want to know more. You'll get a follow-up email from me later this week with your certificate from us for PD for doing this with us, as well as resources and where you can find this recording on the internet on our Gaming Concepts YouTube channel. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop a couple of links in here for everybody real quick. If you are interested in any type of esports curriculum, esports courses, we do offer 6 courses that are full textbook level, full high school, middle school level courses that are completely built out for everybody looking for that. So I invite you to take a look there, as well as our YouTube channel where we post all of our webinars, all of our guests, everything that we do. We post here for everyone to utilize because this stuff is hard to figure out by yourself. And if you can have a resource that explains it to you, even in a video that you're watching on your lunch break or something that you watch or send to somebody to get better information about it, we are here to help, right? So we are here to support the students. Whether you go with us or not, I'm just happy that Mike and I are just happy that you're starting esports. So, we really appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you, Mike, for being on here, helping out and adding some color to all the questions and all of the slides. So, everybody, good luck on your esports journey, wherever you're at in that journey. And we are here to support and help you. I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.